Welcome to the Miss Pursuit podcast, the show that will inspire you to pursue an extraordinary outdoor lifestyle. I'm Carly Brasso, founder and CEO of Miss Pursuit, and we are obsessed with all things outdoors. We're here to help you on your messy and magical journey of getting outside. The tried and true secrets, tips, and tricks for starting, learning, and advancing your skills and passion for the outdoors. Shy away from real talk? Nope, not here. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome of hunting, fishing, guns, archery, and wild game are all what you'll find here. Pull up a seat, get cozy, and be ready to be challenged and motivated while you learn. This is the Miss Pursuit podcast. Today we're talking about pistol basics, buying your first handgun, shooting tips, and how to safely conceal carry with Stephanie McGanty. Stephanie is from Oregon, where she's married and has 2 daughters, and her father taught her gun safety as a child. She's been concealed carrying for over 12 years. She also recently rebranded her business as Bellatrix Training. Okay, we have Stephanie on the Miss Pursuit podcast today. How are you doing this morning, Stephanie?
I'm doing awesome today. Thanks, Carly.
Okay, so is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast. Yes.
Woo, yes.
So I was pretty stoked about that.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited you're here. Your resume is very impressive. Do you mind just kind of telling us a little bit about you? And I know you have a company, and kind of tell us just a little bit about you and what you're doing.
Okay, awesome. So my background is basically I grew up with guns in the family, hunting in the family. It's been in our life since I was little. But I didn't really start pursuing concealed carrying a firearm on my person until about 12 years ago. And then when I became a mom, I started doing a lot of training with handguns because I knew that I wanted to be really proficient if there was ever a situation where I needed to defend myself or my kids or somebody else that was innocent and needed help. I just have that inner warrior mentality, I guess, that if there's a fight or flight mode going on, I'm going to definitely go with the fight mode. So I learned that about myself pretty early on. And I just pursued training with instructors that were prior military, contractors with the CIA that had actually been in real combat situations. So any of the pistol training I was doing was very defensive mindset, like the reality of what that looks like, not just training with people that talk about theory, but have actually been there, done that. So when COVID hit last year, I was working a sales job, doing seminars, sales, marketing. And so I did a lot of public speaking for that job. And then I was also really passionate and still started teaching more firearms training on the side because I had a lot of women reaching out to me saying, hey, I want to learn this. You know, I see that you're badass, you're doing all this. Can you show me how? And they just needed somebody to kind of show them the way. And I don't know, for Mandalorian watchers, this is the way. Or it is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. So I didn't have a company name last year. It was just me. And I just started scheduling more classes and teaching more as I had more time because my job was definitely taken away from me due to COVID last year. So I just started working really hard and teaching a lot, working with Fieldcraft Survival. I don't know if you've heard of them. Mm-hmm. They're a really big training company, probably the most respected training company in the country. I've trained a lot with Mike Glover and some of his team of guys as well. And I was invited to actually help teach their women's courses in Utah. So I travel about once a month to do that. And then about a month ago, finally, I came up with a business name. And for me, business names are really important because you want to choose something that has meaning for you and for others that they would want to represent, that they can identify with. And so the name that I finally came up with all on my own, instead of just saying all my friends, hey, help me find a name, help me, it had to come from my heart. Business names and tattoos are very permanent decisions. So it has to be something that means something to you. So I found the name Bellatrix. I was just playing around on Google, and Bellatrix, the deeper old meaning of it is it's the Latin meaning for female warrior. And that's kind of who I feel like I am on the inside. And I have Viking lineage, a lot of Norse stuff there, but all the things you see for Viking warrior women online, the pictures, the dreadlocks, didn't really fit me. So Bellatrix is more, I don't know, it's badass, but just has a deeper root meaning. Bellatrix is also the third brightest star in Orion's belt. Bella means beautiful. So all the women that train with me, I call them Bellatrix Bellas, or Bellas of Bellatrix. And so that's how, kind of a short version of how I got to where I'm at. And I'm very busy teaching a lot, private lessons, big classes. I travel to teach. I have women in Texas that want me to come and teach there. And here's my message to everyone. If you want me to come and teach a women's only pistol class, find a range. I'll set it up. I'll fly to you and I'll come and train. So
Let's do it. How about we figure that out like right after we get done recording?
let's do it. It sounds awesome.
Because I have a few girls in my neighborhood, women in my neighborhood. Like, I think they just think, oh, I hunt, so I've got to be great with a pistol.
Right.
That want me to, that want me to take them to the gun range to,
Mm-hmm.
shoot handguns. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I can, but
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. I mean, I could fake it a little bit,
Yeah.
and just do some basics, but I was kind of like, I feel like we need to get someone
Yeah.
to teach us. But a lot of the classes, if you look at the gun ranges, you have to, have in-class instruction, which is okay. I do understand a little bit of that, but
Mm-hmm.
I want
Mm-hmm.
hands-on. Like, I want someone showing me how to load my bullets. I want someone showing me how to hold my gun. I want someone
Mm-hmm.
standing next to me telling me how to breathe and take a deep breath, things like that. So,
Yes. And we do
um,
that. Breathing is important.
maybe we need a little Miss Pursuit Dallas gun teaching with Stephanie.
You do. You need I would call it a level 1 pistol course, which is
Level one
really,
pistol course.
it's going over the fundamentals of pistol, which are stance, grip, sight picture alignment, trigger press, follow through, how to keep it all together. I teach people how to draw from the holster so they can have a process for how to do everything. And we are obviously working very much on safety through the whole process. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, keeping your muzzle on the target, not turning and sweeping the person next to you. One thing I'll say about my classes is they're very safe, and everyone feels very safe because the rules, the expectations are laid out so clearly at the beginning and during the class that I remind people, like, I'm not going to set them up to fail and feel stupid because they made a mistake that a lot of people make when they're new with pistol. From the hunting world, you have rifles which have a really long barrel that it's a lot easier to be aware of that muzzle or that barrel in the direction it's going. With a pistol, you have such a shorter barrel. It's just easy for people to make the mistake of accidentally pointing it at themselves or the person next to them or over their own hand or their feet, which we call sweeping or flagging. Um, so I love teaching pistol just because it's challenging. It's something I'm really good at because I worked hard at it. I don't know a lot about hunting. My husband hunts, but so you ladies could educate me on that. So
Well, I mean, did something bad happen? Like, I know you said kind of you have this warrior mindset and this fight or
yeah,
flight, you always take the fight approach. But what was it really that was like, okay, I mean, I feel like usually I'm going to say someone like you, quote unquote, maybe has this moment of clarity or a fear that made you start getting more into understanding the importance or need to carry.
that's a great question. Before I had kids, I worked in a job for a while where I traveled around Oregon and Southwest Washington. I live on the West Coast. Um, and I would be in a car by myself for like 3 days, staying at hotels, going to my appointments that my company set up for me. And they wouldn't always tell me um, who the person was. Like, I would get a name, I'd get an address for my appointment, and I would go there and have to do a presentation with that person. This was years ago. And there were a couple of appointments that scared the living daylights out of me because they were way out in the middle of nowhere. And I would go to this person's house, and one guy invited me to have a jug of wine on his porch with him. And he lived in kind of a shady area as like an older gentleman. And that just terrified me that I was in a situation alone as a woman with a man that I don't know. And he's trying to get me to drink with him on my work appointment. Another time my manager and I were traveling in Idaho for an appointment, and we had a rental car, went off the beaten path, following Google Maps telling us to go where we shouldn't go. And then we ended up sliding off of a road down into a ravine against a tree in the rental car, which was terrifying. So then we had to
Yeah.
get out and walk back as far as we could to find a house. And so you're just trying to find somebody to help you. And thankfully, this is like Idaho, where there's a lot of good people there, but you still don't know. And we walk up to this house, and they're kind of nervous. Who are these people coming up to my house? And then we're also kind of nervous, like, I don't know who these people are. And so those type of situations just taught me that you are your own first response. Number one, medically, being prepared with emergency medical care for yourself or your kids in your vehicle at all times, wherever you are. But then also defense wise, you are your own first response. If we were to call 911, I had no cell phone reception in those situations. What am I going to do? How fast are they going to be able to get to me? So that was a big wake up call for me. And I had a revolver with me. I didn't like my revolver. I hated shooting it. But it's what I had at the time because I wasn't really educated in pistol at the time. I had it in my purse so I could pull it out, point, shoot, and that was it. That was the extent of my knowledge with handgun at the time, but I just wanted to be prepared for that worst case scenario either way.
So this gets me. Let's talk pistols. So
Okay.
someone who has decided, hey, I want to carry, or hey, I want to learn to shoot. What is kind of the first, like, what kind of gun does a lady or man, but a lady need for her first pistol?
Well, I'll tell you my recommendation based on experience and education that I've had with handgun, and my experience with teaching women with handguns. And then also from my own experience in choosing and picking the wrong guns before I ended up with the right ones, which is most people's story. You end up trying a few and then you don't like it, then you end up buying more based on trying a few guns. The best way to go about it is to go to a range that has guns that you can rent, kind of have an idea of which ones you want to try ahead of time, and get a feel for how they feel in your hands. But the problem I have with that as well is if they don't know how to hold the pistol correctly with a right grip, then it's harder to tell if it's the correct pistol for your hand size. So what I do to measure people is I will have them put their hand up to mine, and either with women, we either have really small hands, kind of medium hands, or large hands. I would say I'm more of a medium large farm girl hand. Okay, that's how I grew up. Horses, hauling hay bales around, just stronger, kind of bigger hands. Um, so the type of pistol that would fit your hand if you have small hands, I would say would be like a Sig Sauer P365
That's what I
or
have.
P. That's a great gun. It's very accurate, by the way, crazy accurate gun. The Sig P365 XL would be the next step up from that because it fits like 12 rounds in a magazine plus one in the chamber or thereabouts. I would never choose a gun that holds less than 10 rounds in a magazine because the whole idea of buying a semi-automatic pistol over a revolver is that you have higher capacity for more rounds. Because if you have the oh shit moment, I need to draw my gun and defend myself, people aren't thinking about how many bullets they have. And if they're pulling the trigger in self defense, they're not counting. They're just going boom, 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 boom. So having more rounds available for you gives you more chances of hitting a target and less need for reloading in the moment. So I want to go with I love to carry full size pistols. So a full size pistol example would be like a Glock 19. Um, I would say a Glock 19. There's a Springfield XD, Glock 43X, uh, Glock 48. So just so you know about Glocks, they have models that go by like 26, 43, 48, 19, Glock 17, Glock 45. They have all these models that do different things, but there's the common ones that I mentioned that are the most popular. Now, how women can size their hand for a gun is you take your strong or dominant hand, which I'm right-handed, so that's my dominant hand when I'm shooting, and I would have put it up, and you have this nice little V-notch between your thumb and your index finger. So you want that to take up all the space in the back strap of the pistol up to the very top where there's like a nice curve, or beaver tail, we call it. And then they want to wrap their lower three fingers, their middle finger, around the grip of the pistol to where it's touching the trigger guard at the top and there's no gaps in between those fingers. And you want to be able to comfortably hold that gun with your knuckle of your thumb around the left side of the gun, not underneath the back strap of it, okay?
Okay.
And get that comfortable fit. And if it's too big, your fingers won't go all the way around the grip. And if it's too small, you'll overwhelm the gun with your hand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the support hand fits underneath the other side with your thumbs flat down, pointed down the gun towards the target. So women will just pick up guns if you have that basic knowledge and just feel what that grip feels like for them. But you won't really understand how great that pistol is for you until you take a class with it and you really understand how to operate it, how it functions, how to load it, how to unload it, how to lock the slide back and be able to see if it's empty or not, how to do mag changes and get a good grip and hitting shots on target. I had 2 guns I went through before I ended up with my favorite pistol for the range. And now I'm on my 3rd or 4th pistol. And so it's a learning process. And as a Second Amendment supporter, I would say, hey, it's okay to have lots of pistols. So if you start out by buying a couple and then you end up not loving them, that's okay. You can buy more. This is America. That's what we do.
I guess I know where you lie on the political scale.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
definitely pro having your firearms and not letting them be taken
I
from you.
I could have guessed that, Stephanie. Um, so would you say never buy a revolver, or like what's the point in having a revolver?
So that leads me to another thing I wanted to talk about. So a lot of women will buy a gun based on what their husband thinks they should buy, or they go into a gun store. Yeah, right. I see. Exactly. Or they go into a gun shop and then I don't want to pick on old men at gun shops, okay? But they will hand a lady a tiny little pistol or revolver and say, here you go, lady, this is what you should buy. I tell you what, bigger guns are better. Bigger is better. And a revolver, I mean, how many rounds do you have in that? And how much are you going to practice on reloading a revolver to be fast and efficient? There are definitely sports that are all with revolvers. There's so many disciplines in shooting in general. But the average person is going to have an easier time and more rounds on them, rounds meaning bullets, by having a semi-automatic single action pistol where all you have to do is load the magazine, put a bullet in the chamber by racking the slide, and then you press the trigger and it goes boom. Now, I don't recommend guns that have all these extra safeties on them. Like, have you seen pistols, not a revolver, where there is a grip safety? There's like a little button you press in with your hand. That's a safety. So if it's not pressed in, the gun won't go off. Then you also have a um, little button on the side they have to toggle with their thumb to put it on safe or on fire. So those are just extra things for people who aren't experienced with pistol. My safety with any handgun I pick up is my fingers not on the trigger unless I'm ready to shoot. And to build that discipline just takes practice and time. But anybody can do it. As far as revolvers go, they're a great backup gun to throw in like a bag or a purse or something that doesn't need a holster covering up that trigger guard. Revolvers are very simple and they can be easy for somebody who doesn't know much about pistol to just pick it up and point and shoot, right? But there's more kick in a lot of revolvers. So when you're shooting, you're going to have more kick. It's just not the grip on it isn't very comfortable. The two-handed grip is not comfortable in a revolver. On a semi-automatic pistol, the biggest size you can get to fit your hand, you're going to have simplicity, more rounds to shoot, and it's just easier in general. A longer barrel on a pistol is going to have less recoil when you're shooting or muzzle flip. So less recoil, more comfortable to shoot, more fun to shoot. And for women, it's just intimidating because we look at these semi-automatic pistols and we feel like they're complicated. There's a lot to it, but there really isn't. Once you understand the basic mechanics of it, you take a class like what I teach, then at the end of the class, women feel confident. They feel badass that they can take on anything. And these people at these gun shops or husbands picking guns for their wives, sometimes they get it right. Sometimes they do a good job. But I would say the majority of the time, don't let somebody else pick a gun for you. Learn enough, try different pistols, see how it fits your hand, ask me questions. Come on, come to my Instagram, come to my page. I will help you.
Yeah, so my first gun, I lived by myself in a back house in college. Fine, safe, but I was basically in the alley. I had someone, I don't know, but one night I had thought someone had walked by my window and I got all
Mm-hmm.
scared. So my dad's like, get a gun, blah, 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 get a revolver. So I get my little revolver. Or maybe I think he gave me his revolver.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just right. The gun that you get is a revolver.
Yes, it's pretty
And
common.
a couple months later, I had another little something where I thought someone was in the backyard, kind of walking by my window. So I went to the gun shop to kind of talk to them, and literally they were like, "Why the hell do you have a revolver?" And I was like, "This is the gun." All the guys said, because I feel like men are always like, "Oh, get a revolver." I don't know
Yeah,
why. And
it's
they
old
were like,
school.
this is no, 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 and no. Like the recoil is horrible. That
Mm-hmm.
everything, like no, like you do not need a revolver. So they talked me into something else that I have, and now I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with guns. But it is that
Mm-hmm.
same like story of just, oh yeah, and you go into any gun shop really, and I feel like they have all these like little revolvers that are like this big and pink, and
Tiny, tiny guns.
they
Yes.
think, oh,
Don't.
those are perfect, they'll fit right in her little cute purse, and that's what's best for her.
Yeah.
um so okay, talk calibers. I know you have mentioned a few calibers.
Mm-hmm.
um does Okay, so I do not know guns, so you're gonna have to stop me if I say something wrong or ignorant or whatever. But you mentioned like, let's say the Sig P 365.
Yes.
Is it about the size of the gun and or the caliber? Like, does
It's both. It's both. So, the most common caliber and most popular caliber that people are buying and shooting today, as you can see by the national ammo prices and shortages, is a 9 millimeter. So, a 9 millimeter bullet has enough power in it to take out another person. It is the caliber that police carry, SWAT, special forces, military, people that actually have to shoot bad guys for a living carry 9 millimeter. Now, there's a couple different types of that caliber. That there's ballpoint or the round tip target ammo that you would buy for the range to practice and shoot with. And then there's the hollow points, or the top looks kind of serrated around the edges and it has kind of a hollow tip in the middle. That's why it's called a hollow point. And that would be considered like your concealed carry ammo, or what you would carry on you in self-defense, because when you shoot it, it still carries all that power of the 9 millimeter, but it spreads out more. It looks kind of like a flower after it's been shot and it hits something, it flares out. So if it's hitting a person, the idea is that it will stop once it's hit the intended target and not travel through and hit something else, which is always the concern um, is my caliber powerful enough to take out a threat? And is it going to stop or keep traveling through them and hit something else? And 9 millimeter has been the ideal uh, one for that. Now, a lot of times women will go to a gun shop and, like you're saying, they want to suggest a tiny little gun that shoots 380, which a 380 bullet looks similar to a 9mm. It's just a little shorter, almost a little fatter looking. And I do not recommend 380 for concealed carry. It just doesn't have the same amount of punch. The gun options you have for 380 are definitely going to be smaller, like we mentioned. And ladies, you do not need to go buy a tiny gun because you're afraid you can't conceal it.
Yeah.
You find, I, yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
sorry.
I mean, so conceal carry is very intimidating to me.
It's intimidating to a lot of people.
Like, so here, okay. I don't know. Tell me, like, how do I conceal? I mean, clearly, I think the more comfortable you are with guns and a handgun, the more confident you would feel carrying. So maybe that's why I don't feel comfortable carrying, because
That's your answer. That's your
I'm
answer
not
right there.
comfortable enough with the gun.
Yes.
But how do you conceal it? I mean, I feel like this is a big topic with women who carry, like,
Hmm.
a belt or an ankle or a stud, blah. Like, there are all these types of carrying positions.
Hmm. There's a lot
What?
of them.
How do you carry?
So first, I'll circle back and just say that the other reason I suggest a semi-automatic single action striker fire pistol, which is what the models I gave you name-wise, Glock 19, Glock 48, Glock 43X, SIG P365, all those guns have an internal hammer. So when you pull the trigger, you don't have to worry about any outside hammer with a longer pull on the trigger than you normally. It's not a double action, it's a single action. So it's simple. And the magazine that you put your bullets in and feed into the gun can contain 10 plus bullets. Whereas a revolver or something smaller, you're going to have 6 or less typically. Um, and I want to have more chances to hit the target than just a few and then be done and have to like run, I guess. And not even talking about concealed carry, if you just want to learn how to shoot for fun on the range and take a class, not even talking about concealed carry, um, having a bigger gun with bigger magazines just makes your job and your learning a lot easier than with the smaller ones. The learning curve on a bigger gun is a lot smaller than on the smaller guns where you have a shorter barrel with that 9mm bullet coming out. And so it's a lot snappier. It's going to hurt your hands more than a longer barreled handgun will. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now to answer your question, getting comfortable with concealed carrying is all about proficiency with the pistol that you bought and you're carrying on you. If you don't feel proficient and comfortable with that gun or confident, it's because you just need more training and practice. And once you get that and you do the work on your own, then that will translate to I feel comfortable carrying this gun on my person. Like one of my students, Danielle, recently, she just moved to Tennessee, lucky girl. She took a pistol course with me and was super nervous, really worried about it. And by the end of the class, she knew how to operate her pistol really well. She was comfortable drawing from the holster and putting her gun away on her person with her finger off the trigger. And literally the next day, she's raving to everybody, oh my gosh, I feel like I can go to the grocery store and carrying my gun in my holster on me with my kids. And I finally feel comfortable doing that now because I just feel like I know what I'm doing. Um, I really only recommend concealed carrying a couple of ways. Uh, I don't recommend holsters that go under your clothes in your bra area, like on the side by your armpit. I don't really recommend. You see a lot of different ways that people advertise to conceal carry for women. All
Mm-hmm.
these cooked up ways because of our outfits and the way that we dress. So I carry two ways. I either carry in the waistband, which is IWB in the waistband,
Mm-hmm.
and I carry it appendix or center line, which mean like right below my belly button. And I carry in pants that I like to wear. And so I will just, and there's different holsters, different clips that you can use that will fit fabrics or yoga pants, jeans, high waisted mom pants that we're all wearing again. There's ways to carry. And then I also carry in a bag that is made for concealed carry, but doesn't look super tactical. that is a cross-body carry bag that I can pull around to the front of my body, unzip, and get my gun out of the holster. The main point to all of this is whatever way you carry, make sure you have a hard-sided holster that covers up the whole trigger guard. So that way there's nothing that can press against that trigger while it's on you or in a bag and have the gun go off. And I have holster recommendations that I can send out to if you're going to do a blog on this. But that's a big important one, is don't conceal carry in something soft-sided that doesn't have a Kydex protected trigger guard or holster. So it's secure.
Hard-sided holster.
So Kydex, Kydex, any holster that's not made from good Kydex is not a good holster. I don't recommend leather holsters because they are soft, and when they heat up to your body, they can be molded. And there are plenty of YouTube videos that you can watch if you want, people accidentally shooting themselves with holsters that are not good holsters.
We don't want that to happen.
Me neither. No, don't need to apply a tourniquet for negligence.
Okay, so I mean, and I love this is. It's never about like, oh, follow me on Instagram or blah blah blah. But I do love when I have guests on, and I've had a few similar to you, just different backgrounds, but literally, like, I feel like so many people or women have no idea, like, right? Like, who could I just send a quick text message to that's like, okay, I'm about to go to the gun store. What do I need to do before I go in? Like, there's legit someone right here in front of me, but on Instagram or wherever, that you could direct message and just say, Stephanie, I heard the podcast, but I have no idea. Like, what do I do? And there are so many cool people like you who will just share your knowledge.
I just want to help people. I love it. I'm passionate about it. And part of the reason I started Bellatrix is because of this need for a female in the industry that women can relate to, they feel comfortable with, they feel that I have the necessary knowledge to help them through this process. And I do. And so you've given me, I have homework to do. I've got YouTube videos I have to make, all of that women could just watch or share with others before they go into a gun store. All of that. So that's a great point. And I'm definitely willing to answer those DMs too.
Yeah, I mean, I think having just a person, right? Like, I know people can't maybe see you right now or don't really know you, but I promise, like, seeing your face, like, I feel like literally anyone in the world could send you a message that's just like, hey, what do I do? You know, and that you would be so happy to help them. And by the way,
totally.
since y'all can't see Stephanie, she's absolutely beautiful.
I did do my makeup for this podcast. I did do my makeup this morning.
She did her makeup, and she's got the cutest blonde hair and these cute little bangs, and she's absolutely beautiful. So there is that. Okay, so I want to kind of make sure I and everyone understands this. So before you buy your first gun, kind of measure your hands, kind of figure out what size gun would be best for you, so that when you do walk into a shop, you kind of know these are the 3-4 guns that are really good for small hands.
All right. I'm gonna rehash one little thing here to help you ladies out, and you just write these down. I'll try to go slow, okay? Anybody listening, if you want to pick a pistol, I'm going to name off the ones I recommend for you to try first before you pick up other guns. If you have medium to large hands, you can easily grip and hold a Glock 19. The magazine that comes in that gun holds 15 rounds, 15 bullets, plus one you can load in the chamber. The next one I'd suggest, if I go from biggest to smallest, would be a Glock 48. It has a little longer grip, but it's more of a narrower pistol, and the magazine is a single stack, meaning there's just one bullet atop of the other. In a Glock 19, you have them kind of staggered, so you can fit more rounds in a magazine, makes the grip a little fatter. A Glock 43X would be the next one down, and I'm just starting with the Glocks because it also holds 10 rounds in a magazine, and it's not as big as a Glock 19, but it's a little bit smaller barrel than the Glock 48. The Glock 43X is also a great option if you have small to medium hands. SIG P365 really fits a wide range of people's hands, but I would say more of a small hand. That's a good gun for anybody with small hands. The P365 XL they created to get a little more room for more bullets and then a little longer barrel. But I would still say the P365, the original one, is still my favorite. The Springfield XD is another pistol that is really popular. It's going to be a little fatter, a little chunkier, a little harder for people to conceal just because it's thicker pistol. But if you have medium or so size hands, that would be a good one, or medium to large. But a Glock 43 is one that really small-handed women like. It's an affordable gun. It's only holds 6 bullets in a magazine. I still see that it's pretty popular. The thing I'll warn women about with smaller brand new pistols like that is they are really tight when they're new. So when you're learning all the functions of it, everything is going to be stiffer because it hasn't been broken in yet, if that makes sense. So all of these guns are like that. But those are what I'd suggest to start with, because just naming those guns off, they are semi-automatic, they are striker fire, single action, you pull the trigger and they go boom. So it's very simple. There's no additional safeties you have to worry about on these pistols.
So
Is that helpful?
no, it's perfect. It's like so freaking perfect. I'm like, yeah, so perfect. Okay, so now we know our recommendations. I could try, now that I know kind of some of these, I could go into a gun shop and say, hey, I'd love to try a Glock 19, a Glock 48, and a Glock 48, 43X, or whatever my...
And I will say that the majority of women can grip and shoot a larger pistol than they think they can. Just
okay.
FYI.
FYI.
I've had women say, well, this person recommended this to me. Let me tell you a quick story about something that happened with a student the other day. I was at the gym down the street from my favorite gun shop, and they called me and said, hey, 2 of your students for Saturday's class are here wanting to buy ammo and things. And so I thought, okay, well, if they're still there, I'm going to go down and say hi. And I walk in, and the gun shop owner is trying to get one of my students to use a Glock 43, which is a .380 caliber pistol of the Glock 43. He's like, oh, no, this is perfect for you. You should use this for this class. And I said, no, let's go out to my vehicle. I happen to have 3 pistols on me. Don't ask why. I just ended up having 3. So we went out to my car, and I unloaded one of my guns for her to try. And it was a HK VP9. So it's a full-size HK pistol, striker fire, single action, all of that. And she could grip it perfectly. Like, I just tested it out in her hand. It fit really well. And it was very comfortable for her. And so then she said, okay, well, I'll shoot this for the class, and she's going to rent it from me. So we went back in the store, and I said my goodbyes, and I left. And I find out later, the gun shop owner was like, oh, no. You don't want to shoot that gun. That's too big for you. You still need to take this 43 380 pistol. So she came to my class with the pistol he recommended, because he kind of pressured her about it. And then she had problems with it the whole time. And it was too small. It wasn't fun for her to shoot. It was more snappy, and it kept having malfunctions or issues that she didn't know how to fix. So it was not a fun class for her. And then I handed her my biggest Glock that I have, which is a Glock 45. It's a Glock 19 and a Glock 17 that had a baby. That's basically what a Glock 45 is. And she shot that gun and loved it and just gripped it fine and was just surprised herself. So I just wanted to use that story as kind of a lesson that, listen to me, don't listen to those men. I know.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so we have that. You can go to a gun range, you can try, but really you need to take a level 1 pistol
a pistol fundamentals, or even take also a pre-range class, which is like a couple of hours of all the basic things with pistol. So that way women feel a little more prepared when they go to the range and they're less nervous. So those are good classes too. If women wanted, I would travel, do a pre-range portion where it's the evening before the class, and then the next day do the range class, which might help them be more comfortable and prepared.
Okay. Okay. And then I want to go over this just again. To safely carry, how do you safely everyday carry?
Make sure that the pistol is in a holster that is made of Kydex and
Kydex.
it covers the whole trigger guard. Now, the trigger guard of a pistol is the plastic, or it looks like plastic. It's made out of a hard material that goes around where the trigger is. It covers the area that your finger goes into to press the trigger. So you want that whole area totally covered up on both sides with a hard-sided Kydex holster. And that way, and by the way, let's say, so we're talking about safely, right? So a lot of women are concerned that this gun with a magazine full of bullets in it and has a bullet in the chamber ready to go, that somehow it's just going to go off on its own, right? So the concern for safely is, oh my gosh, I have this gun in my pants, and is it going to go off on its own somehow? And they're just afraid and nervous. The only way that gun will go off, and all the guns that I mentioned have built-in safety mechanisms into the gun, on the trigger even, that you have to fully pull it and press it all the way back for a bullet to come out. It's not going to go off on its own, especially if the trigger is all covered up and protected. Your safety is the holster, first and foremost, carrying it on you in that. You're not leaving it laying around for people to randomly pick it up. And then your other safety is my finger is not going on that trigger until I'm ready to shoot. When I draw my pistol in and out of the holster, my finger is automatically oriented, angled up on the slide of the pistol so that I am building that memory, that grip memory of where my finger placement is anytime I pick up and handle that pistol. So those are the ways that you can be safe. It's having the right way to carry that is protecting the trigger guard, and then also building that muscle memory, sorry, your subconscious memory of every time I pick up a gun, this is how I pick it up, this is how I handle it, this is how I can safely operate this pistol. So if you never do it, you're not going to feel comfortable and you're not going to feel safe if you never do
Yeah.
it.
Well, and we are like that with our rifles. I mean, you never put your finger on the trigger ever, like
Mm-hmm.
until you are literally like, I can be totally sighted in, have my deer in the scope, ready to go, and literally my
Mm-hmm.
finger is still straight
Mm-hmm.
until I am literally pulling the trigger. Like we never, like that's like my biggest pet peeve. I was just taught you
Mm-hmm.
never put your hand, never touch the trigger until
Basic gun
literally.
safety. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and
Basic
I
gun
like
safety.
look at people and they've got their hand kind of sitting there like this, and I'm like, straighten your finger and put it up, like until And
Yes.
we're always like very verbal, like
Mm-hmm.
safety on. Like I will even just be doing target practice or shooting at a pig or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Finger is always up, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And like we verbally are like, okay, safety off.
Mm-hmm.
Click the safety off. I'm about to shoot. And like we have like it just that's the way we do it. There's no other way
Yes.
to do it. Like no matter who I shoot with, I think they're always like, okay, you can take the safety off. You don't have to tell me like that you're taking the safe.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, it's just a awareness. Everyone knows. It makes me aware, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think the gun safety thing, people either you are totally it's been drilled into your head, or
Mm-hmm.
you're newer and you haven't been forced
And
into.
another way for women to safely conceal carry is try different positions that you think work best for you. Everyone has a different body type. So for women that don't feel comfortable carrying on their stomach area, like appendix, if they feel like their clothing is not going to be able to cover it because it sticks out too much, there are different holster options that can help fix that. But then again, there's also different body types that can't do it. I mean, I couldn't carry in that position for several years because I had two emergency C-sections, and that scarring there just didn't feel comfortable having something hard pressed against it with a belt and everything. So I would carry more in a 3 o'clock position, or I carry off body in my cross body bag that's made by Victos. I mean, that's a great bag. I got to do a video on that one too. There's multiple ways to carry as long as the trigger guard is covered up in a Kydex holster and you take the time to unload that pistol, make sure it's clear and empty. I have people lock the slide back and look in the barrel first, look in the mag well, check the bolt face, there's no bullets in there, and then they can put their holster on, put their gun on, practice drawing from that position, presenting out at a target, and building that subconscious, that memory of how to do it, do the reps so you don't have to think too hard about the process. It's just something that is automatic. Like when I buy a new car and I go get in that car, I don't know where the heck everything is, right? I don't know where all the buttons are. I don't know what anything does yet. It takes me some time to remember and build that memory of where everything is in my new vehicle, because then when I get in the dark, I already know where everything is, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with a new pistol, in that you have to get to know that pistol and take time with it and empty it out, do what we call dry fire. And I teach people how to do that. So that way, when they come home from a class, they have things they can practice on, and they just aren't left with nothing that they can do at home to learn and build memory.
And then tell me, so what are I know you had told us like 2 or 3 positions that you like to carry your gun, but
Yeah.
what are the 3 or 4 positions that are mostly generally best to carry?
So if you ask the cool guys on Instagram which way to carry, the number one answer is always going to be appendix, like right in the front of your body, center line. I don't like to carry more on my right side appendix, because if I sit down, then my barrel muzzle's pointing right at like an important artery in my leg, and that just makes me uncomfortable. So if I carry it more towards the middle, if I sit down, it's going straight kind of through my legs. If I sit down, that muzzle is going in a safe direction, right? Um, and if I'm drawing a pistol in and out of that position, then I'm not flagging myself as easily. Like, it's a really good, safe way to carry. But again, not everybody physically, depending on their body type, their weight, can carry in that position. So 3 o'clock, right on the side of your body, your strong side. If I'm right-handed, my right side of my body is going to be my strong side. If I'm left-handed, it's going to be the left side. So those are the top two. I don't recommend carrying, I guess, an ankle holster or cross draw holsters where it's under your armpit on the left side. I don't recommend a lot of those odd options, just because there's too many ways that people can accidentally flag themselves when they're drawing from that position. And if you're not practicing and drilling from that position over and over and over again, you're not going to be proficient with it. It's not going to be a smooth draw. Um, for women in general, I would say those two positions, not behind the back or at the small of the back. I guess that would be called like a 6 o'clock position. I wouldn't recommend that, because if you're sitting down in your car or in a chair, which a lot of times we are, right? We're driving. A lot of encounters people have with bad guys are in and out of their vehicle in a parking lot. That's got to be a number one way that you would be accosted. Another reason I don't like that position is if you fall on your back and your pistol is stuck in the holster underneath you, it's harder to get to it. It's just not as fast. And I want to be able to reach my pistol no matter what position I'm in. So crossbody or a carry bag that I train with, I think is another valuable option, because if I have the trigger covered up in a Kydex holster, it's in a position in the bag that I have practiced drawing from, and nobody can grab it from me easily, meaning I'm not setting it down and leaving it somewhere. It's not just hanging on my shoulder. I'm carrying it so that, number one, no one can steal it from me. Secondly, I can carry a bigger gun if I carry it in a bag like that than I can on my person. And I will say bigger is better on guns.
Bigger is better for a
bigger
lot of
is
things
better.
in life.
Yes, it is. I agree with that. So I would say 3 positions are really all I recommend. And if you're wearing a dress and you want to carry, you can carry in a bag that you practice from that has a good place. And I have a Kydex holster in my bag that I have taken like industrial strength Velcro from Amazon, and I have positioned it myself in the bag to where it's in the right position for me. And that's just something you have to practice and figure out.
And figure out.
I can do a video on that too. So those are really the 3 positions I recommend.
Okay.
Just for my own liability, I don't really want to tell people to carry in a lot of other ways. There are some women that will buy these thigh holsters that they will wear under a dress. I don't wear a lot of dresses, so I don't want to limit people to what they can't do just because I don't wear those type of outfits, you know. But I know women that carry at a really good thigh holster with a smaller pistol. I mean, there's no reason why you can't have a smaller pistol and a bigger pistol. Just buy 2.
Yeah.
Buy more than one.
Might as well go big or go home. Have you had any bad experiences with guns?
Um, that's a really good question. Have I had the only bad experience I've had is being around people that weren't safe with pistols and then having them pointed at me on accident or negligently. So I would just be careful who you go shooting with, because if they are not really proficient with their safe gun handling, the last thing you want to do is learn from somebody who is not safe and they're not showing you the right methods. But no, I've never had like a bad personal experience. Um, Something that would cause someone to have a bad experience would be what we call a negligent discharge or accidental discharge. Negligent discharge is somebody not being safe and their fingers on the trigger, the gun is loaded, and it goes boom. I know somebody who's a trainer that told me he knows of someone that's had 3 of those in his own house, where a bullet has gone through the floor of his house, and that's just not okay with me. Like, that should never happen. Accidental discharge is, let's say you're pointing the gun down range or shooting, and then the gun goes off when you didn't mean it to. That happens too. That's happened to me. I would say that's an accidental discharge. Negligence is just not being safe. Accidental is, it was pointed in a safe direction. I was shooting. It went off when I wasn't ready. Does that make sense?
It goes off when you weren't ready, but you still had to pull the trigger.
Yes. That can be
Guns,
an accident. Yeah.
but guns don't just
They
go
don't.
off.
They don't just go off. And that's the misconception a lot of women have, is they're afraid they're just holding this thing and it's going to go off. But I promise you, it will not go off on its own. There have been models of pistols in the past that have very hair or sensitive triggers that would just go off really easily, and that scares people and gives them a bad experience. So that's why I gave you the list of guns I mentioned, because those guns don't have that history. They are made in such a way that they're very safe. You could have a fully loaded pistol of the list that I mentioned, like a Glock 19. You could throw it on the ground 20 feet from you, fully loaded, and the way that gun is built is it's not going to go off because the trigger was not pressed. So
Wow.
it's so much harder for a gun to go off on its own than people think. Now, if it's 120 degrees out and there's a fully loaded gun with a round in the chamber, it's possible that heat can cause a round to cook off. But that can happen like in a lot of different guns, not just pistol. But it's very difficult for that to happen.
Okay, Stephanie, let's ask you some fun questions. You are leaving your house. You have to grab 3 things. You can only take 3 things with you. I don't know why I would think this. I'm going to say maybe one thing, maybe a gun. What are the 3 things you're grabbing?
To take with me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what you're mentioning is my EDC. What would I take with me every day, carry, that I would not forget to take? Number 1 would be a tourniquet, like a Cat 7 tourniquet made by North American Rescue, just because you are your own first response medically and not just for your own personal safety. If I'm in a car accident or something, I want to be able to apply a tourniquet to myself if I need to, or another person that I come upon. So a tourniquet. I always keep enough in my vehicle for every member of my family, and then where I can reach them while sitting in my seat, so I don't have to get out and go find it. Because if I'm stuck in my seat, I need to be able to reach those emergency medical supplies. Secondly, a gun, obviously, fully loaded, biggest size that I can pack on me, with an extra magazine if I can carry it. If I carry an extra magazine, it's going to be in the belt line or it's going to be in my carry bag that I use. And then the third thing would be like a flashlight. I mean, 50% of your life is spent in the dark, especially when we have these time zone changes like we have one coming up. I want to be able to have a light in case I need it.
Good ones. Do you go anywhere at all ever without a gun?
Yeah, I mean, most people do. Sometimes you're in a hurry. Maybe I'm running late for something and I just grab my wallet and my keys to go down to get my lashes filled. Okay. I mean, I live in a very safe community that I would say the majority of people that conceal carry sometimes leave the house without a gun. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen with me, that I don't
Okay.
always have a gun on me all the time. Um, I think for women, that's probably more common. Yeah, sometimes I don't, but it's very important to me to have it with me. And so the majority of time, I always do. But there are places I'll go, like a friend's house for a barbecue. We're just going from point A to point B. If my husband's with me, I know he's concealed carrying. I consider myself to be backup or taking point to my husband. Like I don't rely on him to protect me. I'm responsible for my own safety always. So I tried, even if he is concealed carrying, I will conceal carry for myself as well. But like I said, there are circumstances where I might go somewhere without my gun and everything turns out fine. Now, hopefully, there's not a weird thing that could happen where it's not like I live in a big city like Chicago where, anywhere we are, there could be like shots popped off because there's gang stuff going on. I don't live in Portland, Oregon. I live much further south to that. I live in a wine community. There's a lot of wine tasting, a lot of families. It's pretty low key. Does that answer your question pretty
It does.
well?
That's perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
And then what's like your favorite product on the market right now? Whether that's a gun product or freaking lip gloss. I don't know. What's your favorite like go to right now?
My favorite product, like in the firearms industry.
Sure, whatever.
Um, I would say one of the coolest new things I've heard of, and I don't have one yet, but I really want one. It's called a Philster, Phlster. It's a company that makes a holster that goes under your clothing and has like a harness system that goes around your waist and then a leash that goes around your leg. So that way you can wear this holster in this setup with any gun you want to buy the holster for and position it under any outfit you wear, whether it's like a yoga pants and tank top kind of day or a cute outfit you want to wear out to coffee or whatever with friends. And men and women both love this holster because the beauty of it is you position it in the way that works best for your body. And there's videos on how to do this. And it's not going to print or show through your clothing for other people to see.
Interesting. Do you ever like I know we talk conceal carry, but do you ever just have yours like open carry where people can see it, or do you always conceal?
That depends on the state you live in. In Oregon, legally, you can open carry, but you're going to be faced with people freaking out here,
Who think you're
especially where I
crazy?
live. Oh, yeah. They're like, oh my God, they have a gun. I need to call the police on them. You get those weird people. It's just not worth it. Plus, the whole point of me concealed carrying is I don't want people to know I have a gun. And if I lived in Texas or somewhere where it's more common for people to walk around with a pistol on them, that would be amazing. I would love to do that all the time because then
Well,
I could,
come to Texas.
yeah, because then I could wear the biggest pistol I have on me at all times and just be badass. Here's the other reason I don't like to open carry. Um, if somebody sees you have a pistol and you are not really well trained, they could take it from you.
Yeah.
That's a reason I don't like it. I mean, police officers open carry it for their job, but they have holsters that have like 3 levels of retention, meaning you have to push like a hood off the top of the gun, press a button in to be able to draw the gun out of that holster. And their reasoning for that is that way bad guy can't get their gun out as easily.
Yeah.
So those are some things to think about. Just because you can open carry doesn't necessarily mean it is the best way to go, because I really don't want people to know I have a gun on me.
Yeah.
However, Texas, where a lot of people are very free there and you don't have to be maybe as concerned about that. I would rock that. I would.
Okay, Stephanie, we are so glad that you were here today. You taught us so much about pistols and carrying, concealed carry, the different
Mhm.
ways. I mean, you are legit a badass. I mean, let's just be honest.
Thank you.
I will close this out. But really, thank you so much. Really,
Yeah,
this was fun.
you're very welcome. It's very fun.
Make sure to follow Stephanie on Instagram at steph.m.nw and check out Bellatrix Training at www.bellatrixtraining.com. As always, head over to Miss Pursuit, buy some awesome merchandise, and thanks so much for listening to the Miss Pursuit podcast. Stay outside, and we will see you next week.